Hello, welcome everyone to another Product Training with Google series. Today's session we've got for you here, we're going to get started right away. It's a deeper dive into the investigation tool, the security dashboard, security health for Google Workspace for Education admins in the admin console. So we're going to take a look at a little deeper look into the security-oriented features of a few of the paid editions of Workspace for Education. We've got a slide deck link there for you. It's ampd.it/securitydive, and you should see that in the information below your live stream player window, so you can catch that there. That does repeat at the top of all of our slides, so you should be able to get it throughout this presentation. If you're joining us late or looking for that again, it will be up there. And welcome. My name's Tom Woods. I'm our Google for Education training lead here at Amplified IT. And a little bit about Amplified IT, if you're new to us, we're a trusted premier partner of Google's. We specialize in technical consultancy around, the educational best practices of the use of Google Workspace for Education in K-12 schools and higher education. We also have a line of products and software as a service solutions to help those Workspace for Education admins get the most out of their use of Google for Education in their educational institutions. And let's get rolling. A reminder that this session, as well as all the previous sessions we've already done that Google's already had here as part of this product training series, and the future sessions still yet to come for the next little bit, are all accessible here through the website. That'll be the same spot that got you here today, that you did use to register. We've got a link there on the screen, and again, it's up in the top right corner. If you're looking for recordings of any of the previous past sessions over the last few weeks, you can see there in the image where the arrow is pointing. You can go right to the current recordings and resources, and that will take you to all the previous session recordings that you can quickly register for and be able to view those. So check that out if you're looking for any of those. So here's the agenda for today's session. We're going to take a look at these different security-oriented features for the paid editions of Workspace for Education. We've got security health, the security dashboard, the investigation tool, which is for sure a big one. And then we'll have some time at the end, hopefully, for some questions and answers if there is any. We'll also try to possibly answer some questions as we go here if they fit in well. If not, we'll make sure we get to those at the end of the presentation for sure. And just a reminder, the features that we're going to be looking at, those pieces that I just named, are part of the Workspace for Education Standard and the Google Workspace for Education Plus editions of Google Workspace for Education. So this isn't something that you would obtain through the Teaching and Learning Upgrade edition, because that is as the name implies, the more instructional-based teaching and learning features. But with Standard or Plus, you will have these security features in the admin console for IT, for the admins to utilize, that we're going to look through right now. So first off is security health. And security health is a really interesting dashboard and interface here that's going to tell us a lot about what's going on within our admin console and within the way our admin console is configured and how it's set, or where it's maybe not set optimally when it comes to just general workspace security. So we're going to hop over to that right away here, and we'll just actually take a look at it. So I'm going to jump over to my admin console here, and we're going to branch out over on the side to the security menu, surprise, surprise, where we're going to find most of these things. And here on the security menu, if you have the legacy version of Plus from the last few years, if you will be obtaining Plus after mid-April, or the Standard edition, then you're going to have a lot of these extra pieces on your security menu. You're going to see Security Health right down here, so we're going to open that up and give this a second for this page to load. What we're going to see here is really an analyzation of current settings in the admin console, and where the system and Google feel that good standard workspace cloud security is not being met. It's going to alert us of that and notify us of that in some pretty unique ways. So you can see a lot of things here in this demonstration domain that are being flagged here. Everything from calendar sharing policy to some things with Google Drive. We can go down further and you can see a lot of the core services are going to show up here. Just to get you orientated with what we're seeing, we've got the setting itself, and you can see that these are all hyperlinks. So a quick click of that is actually going to launch us to that particular section in the admin console and take us right to that setting if this is something we want to take action on and maybe make a change. We can see here in the status column in the center, it's going to give us information like which organizational unit that particular setting is set in that unsatisfactory way. So you can see here with Access Checker, we've got that actually set improperly or not optimally in these 3 OU locations. There is an option here to export that to Google Sheets if, given a big organization, that's a pretty long list of where that's set. What we've got over here on the right are a couple other icons, and the extra one shows up when you hover over that. The bubble with the star, that's about the best way I could describe that, is the recommended change. So if we were to look at Access Checker here, it's telling us that we should possibly configure Access Checker to be set for recipients only. Access Checker is that Drive feature with linking Drive files in Gmail where it pops up and asks you, your recipients aren't going to be able to access this. Do you want to change the sharing? Do we want to add the recipients, share it with the whole domain, share it publicly with the whole world? That can lead to a lot of oversharing, either within the domain itself or even externally, hence the security warning here. And a really good best practice is to change that to recipients only. So that's the recommendation. We can also click this open tree diagram and see more of a graphical representation of where that's not set well, and then of course where it's set okay with the blue check marks, so we can see that there. Without me going through it, once you maybe follow the link on the left, go change that setting to meet good security best practice, then this icon over here is going to change to the happy green check mark. And then that's going to tell you that it's now kind of compliant with that recommendation from Google, and everything's good there. So that's really the gist of this. It's kind of that jumping off point to go explore these settings. It doesn't mean you should necessarily just blindly go change all these. You want to take that information and make sure it makes sense for you. Is this the right setting for you? Does it make sense for how your district or organization operates? Is it going to cause any issues if this setting is suddenly changed? Make sure we do that research. Make sure we analyze whether that's appropriate before making those changes, as always. We've got everything on here from automatic email forwarding, which can be a really unfortunate thing when you think your data's safe in your control, maybe in Google Vault, and then it turns out some staff or folks are forwarding to Hotmail or Yahoo addresses or personal gmail.com addresses, and there would be district or institution data out of your control and outside of the Workspace for Education account. So things like that are going to be super important, even to the level of, are your MX records for Gmail set to the right names and the right weighting levels and things like that? You can see a lot of things here. And there's a second page. If we were to jump over to that second page, it's going to even go a little further into possible Hangouts and chat and Google group warnings if it sees any. We've got a marketplace one there. We've got some device recommendations here around mobile devices, possibly Chrome devices, and then just our general security as well. You know, if we're not using two-step verification effectively, we're going to see some of that there as well, and even a little guest appearance here by Google Sites at the bottom. Who knew? So there's something there around your site's sharing policy that you can explore there, see what the recommendations are, and possibly take action. So your security health, if you do have licenses now, is going to have a lot of great information, be a lot different than mine in this demonstration domain. Obviously, we've tweaked a few things intentionally to make them flag on here that would not be good best practices to have those on there. Great. So I'm going to jump back here. A quick reminder, if you're just joining us as well, there is a link to the slide deck up in the top right corner, as well as the Product Training with Google series website for registration or access to previous recordings. So if you're looking for the slide deck, it's below the player window on YouTube there, and it's also up there in the top corner on almost all of these slides as well. All right, so we'll roll forward here to the security dashboard. Now, the security dashboard is a really unique spot with the paid editions here with security, where we're really going to get a unique snapshot and view into what's going on from a real high level security-wise in our Workspace for Education domain. It's a place to go where, with that one quick glance, given the graphical nature you can see there, and we're going to go look at it here with the graphs and the lines, those peaks, those trends, those sudden increases are really going to jump out at you. You're going to be able to notice those quickly, then use a lot of the techniques and features here to really drill in and dig down into that further to see what's going on and possibly remediate or mitigate and take action on those. So again, it's a real launching point to learn more about what's going on, a possible launching point for investigation tool that we're going to look at in a bit here. And there's a lot of great ways you can see there in the top of that picture to customize this around the time and the amount of data that you want to see. So let's take a quick look at that. We're going to jump over here back to our admin console, and we're going to come back to the security menu. And we've got dashboard right here. Not to be confused with this other dashboard that's been around for a while up on the top of the list. We are needing to go to security, to the security dashboard. All these features are part of what's aptly named the Security Center for the paid editions, and the security dashboard is part of that. So we're going to open that up, and you'll get a good look at that here. It's going to start me off at the last 7 days, obviously the right time zone and things like that. And you can see there's a lot of cards here of information from authentication, external file sharing in the domain. You can see kind of a bit of a mountain, a bit of a spike there. We've got things around spam, email encryption, message delivery, even just how many incoming messages are we getting, daily, weekly, things like that. Really important ones like spam phishing. We're going to do some digging into that in a second. User reports around user reported spam, spoofing, failed password attempts. We even get into OAuth with third-party applications, and what applications are folks authorizing with a sign-in using Google, but more importantly, what are they authorizing access to in their core services to these applications? So you can see the number of grants, the number of users that are authorizing access to API scopes for their Workspace for Education account with those third-party apps, failed user logins, suspicious user logins, even data loss prevention or DLP incidents. And the DLP itself is not part of the paid editions. Everybody has that with fundamentals, but if you're creating some DLP data retention rules with Google Drive, then you're going to be able to see, once you get all those set up, rather than having to sift through a lot of logs, we're going to see here that, hey, the other day there was a large increase or spike in our DLP rules being flagged. Are our users suddenly doing something that they shouldn't within Google Drive files and documents? So lots of information there. We can go back up to the top here, and we can modify this to the last 180 days. The investigation tool, the information we're seeing is coming from the reports engine here in the admin console. All of that data, aside from Gmail logs, is 6 months, 180 days. So we still have that same limitation, but this gives us this graphical interface, and then you'll really see the power of the investigation tool in a minute here, where it takes those logs that we do have in fundamentals for sure, but rather than having the arduous task of going through those manually and trying to find hotspots, trying to have data pop out of CSV files, this is going to put it front and center and give you really ease of use in remediation and doing something about the problems. So, 180 days, we can see the different spikes, we can see the information. We can customize this dashboard. I've got a few things hidden here on the pane on the right around some device pieces I didn't need to see. Those can be dragged and dropped and brought back over. We can drag and drop and change the order of a lot of things. That's going to save that as a custom view for my sign into the admin console. If someone else were to sign in, they're going to have their own view of the dashboard. Maybe what's important to them is going to be on the page or off the page or at the top. So that's a great way to customize that, something you can do there. Last thing I'm going to show here, with any of these cards, we see the view report option. If we see, let's say, external file sharing that's of interest in the last few days, we can view the report. That's going to drill us down into a more in-depth, more detailed, granular report. In this case, it's going to show us all sharing. We can then go back to focusing on just those external peaks, those spikes. What happened the other day when 28 external sharing events happened. So we can click on that dot, and right below that's going to refresh the bottom chart to show us the document or files in question. And we can see here there's a particular Google Doc that was viewed 3 times. We see immediately the owner of it. We can then get some more information. By default, we're not going to be able to open this Google Doc, but given the investigation tool we're going to see here in a second, now we have ways to actually reach out and give ourselves access to that file in Google Drive, where normally, even as a super admin, we can't really see what's in those files and what's in people's Google Drive. We're going to come back to this later, but notice this quick jump off button here to the investigation tool. This was a big enough issue. My next step, because there's limited information here, is to launch that. That's going to take us into the investigation tool, pre-populate it with all the information here to then run that search. And then there'll be some actual remediation actions that we can take. We're going to look at that investigation tool here in just a second. So just to recap on the dashboard, it's really that great way to identify those trends, see those peaks, get an idea of what's happening. We can really empower different people in our organization, to be monitoring different areas of that dashboard and have ownership over that. Whether that's phishing, whether that's custom content compliance rules and routing that you've configured under Gmail Advanced, and how is that affecting your mail flow? Is it misconfigured and it's redirecting more mail than you expected and it's not doing its job properly? Just good old inbound message volume. And what does that look like for your school or organization? And then with things like Google Drive, that external file sharing, we've got OAuth app access and granting API access through authorization with OAuth. Keeping eyes on things like that are some of the real great pieces that we can monitor there. There's a question I think Luann was asking from back at the security health page with the recommendations. Is there a way to mark one so that it disappears from the list? And it looks like the answer to that is no. That check mark, Luann, will go green, but it'll still kind of be there. Maybe historically that's there for your reference, that there was a recommendation and you followed it and made a change. Also, what happens next week when someone on your team mistakenly changes that setting back or changes that setting to something else? That green check mark is going to go away. It'll go back to the little star icon, and you'll know that you're kind of out of compliance with that recommendation. You've got to go fix it again. So I think that's part of the idea there. All right, we're going to jump here into the investigation tool, and then we'll make sure we cut some time at the end, or have some time at the end for questions and answers for sure. So I've referenced the investigation tool a few times here. For sure, it's one of the hero pieces of the Security Center. It's really where you get down to business and let's go actually do something about some of these issues in a real proactive way. So let's jump in. I think I want to show it to you first, and then we'll kind of recap what we've seen and some of the other things that it's capable of. So if we go back here, since I have this window open, let's use the jump to the investigation tool quick button here for this particular external sharing issue. And we'll just see what that looks like. So that's going to launch me this new tab and new page. We can see here it's pre-populated all of this information. So we've got our investigation tool interface here where we can stack up multiple searches. We can add additional searches here. There's a really slick feature called a pivot to just branch out and keep looking and expanding our search to give us more and more information. We can create all those here. We can save them, come back to them later, come back to them weeks later, rerun the searches to see if the results have changed. We can share those saved investigations with other Workspace for Education admins. Maybe they need to come in and tweak the search criteria or look at it in a different way. There's a way to share those as well once they're saved. We can duplicate a template and then kind of modify things from there. And there's some other settings we're going to look at. In this case, it staged this for us, and then it ran the search. And we're going to now have the results of that criteria up there, and we see these documents. So that's really what that quick launch from the dashboard reports are going to do, is bring us right to here. I'm just going to get rid of that now real quick. And we'll just use this empty investigation tool. If we needed to just go straight to the investigation tool one day, because we know exactly what we want to start looking for, it's right here on the security menu, and we can just launch that and go straight to it. That's going to basically take us to this empty window, just like this as well. All right, so we're going to come up here and you can see what can we search for. Everything's coming from the reports, from the logs, from that 180-day data set that we have access to. But again, like I said, this elevates it to the next level because we can do it in a nice GUI interface here that then allows us to take the actual action step to do things. So we've got everything from calendar, chat, devices, drive log, a couple things for Gmail here, groups, meet, rules, user log events, and even some user searches as well. So there's a lot here to be had. We'll recap that in a minute. We're going to show you some examples here first. The difference here is the Gmail log events. That's the one set of logs from reports that is limited to 30 days. So we can search that, and within that 30-day window, there'll be results for us to look at. Alternatively, and really powerful here, is just the Gmail messages search. This is a live messages search in everyone's mailbox as it sits right now today. So that can be super powerful. Maybe on a weekly basis, I want to come in here, or maybe we've heard reports of some strange emails coming to users. So let's come in here and we'll search mail where the subject contains the word, password. And we're going to look for something that might really lead us to some phishing going on within our domain. So if we were to do that quick search here, that's only going to take a second, and this is a really small domain for sure. We're going to get those results. And there they are. And we can see here, we've got tons of stuff, maybe legitimate, maybe not. So it's going to take some sleuthing here to figure out what all these mean. But I can see right here, I'm the IT department, and I don't recall we ever send messages that look like this. IT department password has been compromised. It's gone to multiple staff, multiple teachers in our organization. So we can see the email here, information, we can see the date, we can see the sender was someone external and who it went to internally. We can slide over here, and there's some interesting information here. Given this live mailbox search, we can definitely see that it's kind of still sitting there. These people haven't got to it, but notice the missing unread here at the top for Bill Smith. Bill's read this email. So now we're a little bit more concerned. Let's go back and, hey, why not just look at the email? We don't have to go to Vault. We don't have to jump through any hoops. We can see the header information right here. If that's important to us to check some of that, we can go to the message tab, put in a justification for the admin console logs of why we're opening someone's email. Of course, I can just do whatever I want in this domain. And I'm going to, if there was fancy HTML, we'd be able to see that. And here's the email, obviously illegitimate, not sent from our IT department. And there is a link here, and looking down in the bottom left corner, we can see the URL there is definitely unsavory. This is not anything good. So now the next question is, well, fantastic. What do we do with this? My next question is, did Bill click this link after he opened the email and possibly submit his Workspace for Education credentials and cause a real issue here? We can see some actions down at the bottom. We're going to hold off on that for a second. So let's go back. We're now going to pivot on this subject itself. Now that we found the exact subject line, we can hit the three little dots and we can pivot to a Gmail log search, which is going to give us some different columns of information given the way that 30-day log works. If this is within 30 days, then great, we can do this. So we're going to jump and pivot. That pivot just opens up a new search, presets it with that information, and we're going to search. And let's just find all emails with that exact subject line. We know it went to 3 or 4 people. We can see those 3 or 4 people over here, but here's the information we're looking for. Poor Bill opened it, and it looks like more than once he did click on that link. We'd possibly call Bill. Did you open that link? Did you put your credentials in? Yes, I did. Okay, we've got a problem. Now, as far as actions go, we've got other people that have received this email but have not yet opened it or had any issue yet or caused any issue. We can, given the situation, select emails. Right from here, we can reach out, delete these from everyone's mailbox. Before this phishing attempt becomes a security issue, let's reach out and pull those emails and delete them. We could move this to a quarantine, given a situation. If it was somewhere else under certain labels or been marked as spam by the end user, we could move it back to the inbox. We could mark it as phishing or spam from here. In this case specifically, we for sure would want to delete those messages and really stop that problem before it starts. All right. When it comes to something like Drive, let's start a new search here right at the bottom really quick, and I'll do a quick Drive demonstration just so you can see some difference there. We're going to do Drive, and let's quickly look at the event in the Drive logs is, and let's say upload. All right, and we're going to do a search on that. And maybe we get back a lot of results because people put files up to their Google Drive all the time. So there could be tons of stuff here. Let's come back and now let's tweak it. Let's add another condition where the document type is MP4. We're maybe looking for those movies, TV shows, those abusers in Google Drive that are going to start taking up a lot of space on us and causing us a lot of issues, inappropriate material, things like that. We get some results, maybe a legitimate MP4 file, something we're a little unsure of, and then a definitive movie down here for sure. We can go over to the side and we can see who the owner of the file is in Google Drive, who did the uploading, usually the same person. We could look at these IP addresses if that was important to us and maybe do a lookup online and things like that. But this Tom person, pretty unsavory character, is uploading this movie. Well, now I'm a little curious, what else is Tom uploading? So let's use our pivot and let's go to any Drive log event where Tom is the actor. And we'll do that, but we'll add a condition here so that we don't get everything Tom does in Drive, like editing and printing and everything else. We'll go back to event equals upload. And now we've created a show me everything that Tom's uploading to Drive because we're a little concerned about what this person's doing. We're going to refine that in that way. The search is going to come up here in a second. And now we really get enlightened that this one particular user has uploaded a few other things that do not look good for our security stance. Network hacking tools, some other EXE, maybe a game, maybe something a little more nefarious than that. Here it is. And again, now we can select whether it's one or multiple. And with Drive, we've got all sorts of great actions here. A quick way to add yourself to the sharing list. I need to open this doc and see it. Don't forget, we just by default can't open other people's Google Drive files security-wise. We could add ourselves really quickly to the list. We could drill into the more deeper file permissions. Maybe this has been shared. Anyone in the domain with the link can view. We could turn that back to just restricted ACL only. We could remove various individuals. If this example had more people from the access list for that file, we could definitely, let me get back out of here. We can come back here and maybe under the actions list, we just want to change ownership, change the ownership to us, the administrators, and then do something with those files or investigate what's within those documents over a longer period of time. And we want to be the owner of it, disabling download, print, and copy, removing people without having to go into the fully fledged file permissions window, just a quick remove of people from that access list on that doc or particular Google Drive file. So lots of good things there for sure. We're going to cut back here and just take a look at a summary of, like you saw on the dropdown, all the things we can do with the investigation tool, from device logs to Drive to the 30-day Gmail logs to the live mailbox search, which is super powerful. Any rules you create in the admin console, we can search through those logs in creative ways. The user logs about signing in and things like that, the transactional pieces, a live user search, who right now in our domain is using two-step verification, report. And then again, pivoting and digging into that further. And we've had a lot of new additions to this investigation tool in the last few months. Meet log events up to 180 days are in here now, Google Group log events, calendar events, and Google Chat log events. And I've highlighted, not in its entirety, but some of the key search criteria that you can do within those logs in the investigation tool, but those are not all of them for sure. I just thought I'd pull out some of the super interesting ones there for you. Again, with that investigation tool, if you go into that settings cog, you can turn off the justification you saw pop up when I wanted to open an email. You can turn off the ability even to view email content. You can have a reviewer where if you're going to affect 300 or more mail or 300 or more Drive files with your actions, whether that's a delete or a permissions change, maybe someone else has to review that or approve that. You can kind of set up that workflow here with the require reviewer. So that's really great as well. Really good EDU use cases in education. You saw me kind of run through phishing and that external drive sharing or that uploading of inappropriate content to Drive. Those are great. Using the user logs to find compromised accounts. You could see when people are failing on password attempts, or look at compromised accounts after a phishing attack and see if people are signing in from other countries now that they have that password. Do lookups on those IPs. Maybe we want to look for sensitive information like education plans for students that should be very confidential. Our staff and teachers putting those in docs and sharing them externally inappropriately and things like that. So there's a lot of great use cases for this that we can do for education for sure. Also, we saw through the dashboard reports that quick button to then launch into the investigation tool. I did do that. The other place I didn't get to, but you'll see everyone gets Alert Center, even in fundamentals, but having these paid editions, whether that's standard, plus, or plus legacy, is going to add that investigation tool icon with the little magnifying glass beside your alerts in the Alert Center. And you can take all that data from the alert, jump to the tool, the investigation tool, and it's going to pre-populate everything to start your investigation for you based off of that alert in the Alert Center, which is really great. So that's another quick jump you can do once you have these tools at your disposal. So we'll try to do a few questions here in the last few minutes before we wrap up, so we're not too late. I'm going to do a quick scan here. Christy's asking, can you do a massive or a mass delete on such a message from all inboxes? Yes, we've worked with a lot of districts that have had some major problems with phishing and even reply storms from like misused Google groups by students. And that investigation tool, that delete function, can do thousands and thousands. I even know some districts that had to delete millions of emails from some misused Google groups using that tool. And it's going to take some time if you're talking those size of numbers, but it will remove them, and it does do the job. So in bulk is one of the features for sure that we want to highlight, that it definitely does that. It's not just limited to onesie twosies. Some questions here that aren't necessarily on the tools and would take a lot of explanation and be a little bit off path to get into. Around like blocking people from OAuth. The OAuth is a really deep conversation. I know you kind of see things on those dashboard tiles and think, wow, what's going on here? Everyone, including everyone with Workspace for Education Fundamentals, has access to the API access section under the security menu. I'll show you real quick where that is. I would suggest and encourage you to go to API controls, API controls. And that's where, without the paid versions, everyone with education here can come and see what third-party apps users have been signing in using their Google account, using their Workspace for Education account. And then with a little bit more digging, we can see what they've authorized access to. So when you click on some of these, you can drill down a little bit further and you can see the API scopes that people have authorized. Are they giving it access to their contacts, to their calendar, to delete Drive files? Why does that app need that? And you can do a little more investigation with your teachers with that app. This gets then further into creating a trusted list. If you want to go down that path and actually disabling API access to things like Drive and Gmail, and only the apps on the trusted list would then work. That takes some effort. That takes some homework, takes some time. You can't just rush into that tomorrow, but it's definitely a good place to look at to limit those API scopes. So that OAuth question there in the chat, for sure, that would be a place where everyone can start because that's just a feature of Workspace for Education in general under API controls, under security. Karen was asking, can you block users to not upload files? There are some newer settings, Karen, under Drive and Docs. And let me see if I can find them here real quick for you. And am I going to the right place? Right down here, creating new files on Drive. We're still exploring this because a lot of it's fairly new. This changed recently. So we're still looking at the relationship between these two settings. But you can see here by turning some of these things off, it's actually going to stop users from creating net new native files like doc sheets and slides, and also prevent them from uploading. So if you want someone's Google Drive to kind of be like read-only, access files that are sitting in there or access things through Shared with Me, but not make any new stuff and not upload anything to their drive, this is the place to go. And this is not paid editions features. This is just standard. I shouldn't say the word standard, but fundamentals features that everybody has. So this is a fairly new area that you can explore for that, Karen. So hopefully that helps you there. Great question. All right, we're going to wrap up there because we're a little bit over time. Appreciate all the questions that we could get to there in the chat. Again, the recording for today in a little bit, once it's all compiled, and recordings for any, not just the ones that we've done here with Google, but for all the product training series that have happened over the last few weeks, are accessible through that current recordings and resources button on the product training website. The URL's there, the URL's at the top corner of the page. And thank you very much. I'm going to sign off now. Tom Woods from Amplified IT. Thanks for being here with us today. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.